Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Inside the Incubator. Today, we are going to talk about competition. And I think competition is sort of an interesting topic to discuss because I've always used to think that my business competition was bad, and I'm not so sure that that's the case. So I'm going to throw some questions out to our esteemed panel and my amazing colleagues who we have joining with us today. So sitting next to me is Wei Yule from the Small Business Development Center and NASET up here in Flagstaff.
Hello.
Hello. And then we have Trish Rensink, who is our Incubator Manager up here in Flagstaff. And Christine, her official title is the Executive Director of Chandler Innovation Incubator down in the Chandler area. And Brett Carpenter, the Director of the SBDC, up here in Flagstaff. And we are missing a few people. They might pop in or out, but we're going to go ahead and get started. So I guess I want to throw it out to you guys. Is competition a good thing or a bad thing?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I'm going to say it's both a good thing and a bad thing. It is simply a thing.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a good
The reality is competition exists whether somebody's doing the same thing as you or not. Every day, people come up with solutions to solve a problem, and there are new solutions all the time. But the reality is there aren't that many new problems arising. So if people are trying to solve a problem, they're doing it some way.
I like that. Welcome, Dan. Dan is
Hello, y'all.
from Maricopa down the hill. Glad you were able to get in. We're talking about competition and whether it's good or bad, and I think you heard what Trish was just saying, so feel free to weigh in.
Will do. I'm not ready yet. Go ahead. Keep talking.
Well, yeah, I'll weigh in. Well, isn't our whole system kind of based on competition? You know, capitalism, that kind of thing. So, I don't know. I'm not going to say whether it's a good or bad thing. It's what it is. Like Trish said, it's there. It's always going to be there, and you're going to have direct and indirect competition in your business, and it makes everybody better. Because if you didn't have competition, would you really? Would everybody do the best they could with their business?
I like what Trish said, is that it's a thing. It's just out there, and it's really how you handle it. We had our transportation business. There were two competitors, and one of them saw us absolutely as a threat and did everything they could to make it very difficult for us to get a foothold into the industry or into the market here. And they were just outright mean about everything. And I was delighted when we ran them out of business. I mean, I felt great about it when they collapsed. However, the other company, which is also a competitor, they started to work with us. I remember the first call or second call I got from them was, hey, we left somebody came in late and we weren't able to pick them up. Can you pick them up for us? And suddenly we were competitors, but at the same time we were helping each other out. And so the rising tide lifts all ships. So, like Trish said, competition is a thing. So it's just how you handle it. You can handle it well, or you can be a jerk about it.
Well, and one of the other things too is that most investors want to know if there's competition, because chances are, if there isn't any, they're wondering why no one else is in your space. So it can be that could be a good indicator.
And no investor is going to believe there's no competition.
Yeah.
Or you're doing it that.
Yeah, the competition is that they don't get your product or they don't buy a product like yours. So that is always, no option is always an option.
Right.
So it's a thing, but there's obviously pros and cons to competition, or I guess, how does an entrepreneur determine how to utilize their competition to support their business versus, sort of having that contentious relationship like Wei was explaining with the shuttle business? how does an entrepreneur approach their competition to, I don't know, sort of create something, to create a relationship?
I think it comes down to really understanding the space that you're in. So by understanding the needs of the market, understanding what your competition is delivering to them, it helps you focus on how you are going to differentiate yourself. How are you going to be unique? It also can help frame the conversation, like Wei said, for co-opetition. How can we work together? If you're doing something slightly different than I, or I have a different delivery method that you may be valuable to some of your clients, now this is an opportunity for us to work together. But I think it comes down to really understanding the space and who the players are so that you know how to differentiate and how to leverage.
Good points. I just had a client today actually who wants to do a food truck, and they were talking about how if they're just parked out on their own, sales are slow. But if they are together with 3 or 4 other food trucks, sales go way up. So there's a great example of competition, but actually everyone does better when all the competitors work together.
Yeah, that's a
And while I was on vacation, saw a variety of situations where there were multiple food trucks lined up. It was like, wow, this is like a smorgasbord. How exciting is that?
I want to be there.
Right.
And the best place for a Burger King is next to McDonald's.
Yeah.
So the best place for any competitor is next to the person who's competing with them. If nothing else, it gives the potential clients a chance to see multiple competitors. You get to show off why you're better, but at the same time, I think it builds a synergy that everybody should be together. I mean, everybody sees it.
Well, and also recognizing that choices are important because not every option out there is going to serve every single person's needs. We all have different, not all of us like McDonald's, so the Subway's a great option. So that brings up a really great point, that choices are important and we all have, we're all different too. Our consumers are different.
So what we're saying is that you as an entrepreneur, identify your competitive advantage. But the reality is that competitive advantage is only going to be of meaning to a certain segment of the market.
And yeah, that brings up another point too, is that I don't know if you guys have heard it, I'm sure you have, when someone comes in and you ask them who's your target market, and they say everyone who has a car or everyone who has a house, and and that's not true. So really understanding who your buyer is and why they're going to want to buy from you becomes really important, and your competition can help you do that.
And it's better if they buy from somebody in the marketplace than nobody in the marketplace.
Right.
So what are some of the mistakes, I would say, that entrepreneurs encounter or do as they're assessing their competition? Because obviously before they ever get into business, they should know what their competition is. What are some of the mistakes they're making with relation to their competition as they get started in business?
Yeah, they often badmouth their competition, right out of the gate. I'm working with a client right now that you can't get off of bashing everybody else. He's not even in the market yet. He's not even got his product together yet. And all I can do is bash everybody else. And I'm like, this is not the way to do this. This is not the way to get investment. This is not the way to do a lot of things, because he's made up his mind that he's so much better and everybody else are idiots. So not a real good approach.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's respecting your competition. If they're already in the market, respect what they've brought to the market. Respect what they've created, what they've done to solve the problem. But what you're bringing to the market, hopefully, is better.
Or at least different.
The other thing too is this goes along the same lines, don't underestimate your competition. I've seen firsthand that someone may be really early to market and first to market. You are having to pave the way, but don't forget how fast everyone else can learn from your mistakes and then develop more quickly. So really, you need to be looking behind if you're first to market.
Okay, so that brings up a really interesting topic, because I was talking to someone earlier this week, and she was talking about how she's almost afraid to go to market because she doesn't want to let her secrets be known. But and so while this is an extreme, and she is going to go to market, but she knows that when she does, that she feels like competition's going to be right on her heels. And we were talking about, and she was, hoarding all of this information about what she's doing. Like she's not trying to get any interest or anything before she steps into it. So how do you balance that, need for promotion and sharing with holding on to the secrets that you need to hold on to? I don't know, maybe maintain your competitive advantage, if that's even a thing. I'm not sure I know what the right answer is here.
I don't, in terms of what you're doing, I'm not sure that is a competitive advantage anymore. It's like with the internet, the chances are already that even though she thinks it's a secret, it's already out there and somebody else is doing it someplace. And if you Google it, you could find them. We've all heard from venture capitalists who say, I've heard the same pitch 3 times in a row, same product, same everything. There's nothing all that new. A lot of it is how fast can you actually start your business and how fast can you scale it up and how fast can you change it because to stay ahead of your competition. Yes, you launch a product today, tomorrow your competition has it, but you better be launching a different product, an advanced product, the following day.
I like what you say, Dan. There's no secrets out there. I think it's one of the hot sauces like Tabasco or something. If you look at the ingredients on it, there's 3 things in it. So you can't tell me that someone else can't come up and combine those same 3 things and make the exact same product. But people don't.
Right. Well, there probably are. There's probably 6 other competitors. They're just packaged different, but haven't got the market penetration, haven't done as good a job at the business. It's having a secret product isn't all that secret, and it's not the only piece of business. It's a small piece.
Well, and not only that, not only is it not secret, but what do you lose out by not being first to market? I mean, the reason that Starbucks and Coca-Cola are doing, will always do incredibly well is they were first to market. And it doesn't matter what Pepsi does, it's not going to be Coca-Cola.
Yeah, but I'll argue that Apple wasn't first to market, and they're doing better than their competition.
And Coca-Cola certainly didn't keep Pepsi out of the market.
No, and Coca-Cola really wasn't first to market either. There were competitors at that time.
So here's the thing: what do you lose by keeping hold? What do you gain by keeping your product to yourself?
Market share.
Yeah. You gain market share by keeping your product to yourself.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
No, you lose market share by not sharing it.
Right.
Because if you're not out there sharing your product with everybody you talk to, you're missing out on a piece of the market.
Yeah, no market validation, no buzz, no anything. Especially if you're launching.
No sales.
Right. We have a client that's in the same in that same boat, that inability to share or unwillingness to share what their business is all about until they feel it's the right time. But the truth of the matter is that we could be introducing them to potential investors down the road, to potential partners, but until you're willing to talk about it in a way that's going to excite and inspire people to join you, you don't have anything.
So how are you trying to convince them to share?
Sharing, saying obviously it's important to make sure you're protecting yourself. So what are those things that need to happen? But at the same time, I'm not going to make these introductions to these key contacts until you can have the right kind of conversation, because we want to leverage that opportunity. We don't want it to just fall flat, because they come back and say, I don't get it.
In that particular case, that guy needs seed funding.
So he's going to have to let it.
How can
He needs a very large hammer.
He can't talk about what he's doing.
Well, and the thing is that part of our job, I think, is if you think about a lot of our entrepreneurs, they don't come from the business space. They haven't run businesses before, and so part of our job as coaches and mentors is to help them step into that role and step into that new identity. So they feel comfortable.
There's a lot of talk about scarcity versus abundance. And it seems like that plays in this situation. Because I think the people that want to hoard their ideas, their secret product, I think they have that scarcity mentality is that I've got to hoard this because there's only one of it, or there's only my piece of it, and if I don't hoard it, then somebody else will get a piece of it. Where I think the better is, that's silly to start with, that's not reality, and the smartest thing you can do is basically understand that there is an abundance and put it out there.
Well, like Brett was saying, it actually adds to, it can add to what you're doing. You can market validation, input.
Yeah, if you are so worried that somebody's going to take this and run away with it, then it's not that unique or not that great anyway. You know, it's too easy to duplicate. So, you know, it's probably not that sustainable an idea if you think that the second somebody hears it, they're going to be able to duplicate it.
Yeah,
It always raises huge red flags for me.
What was that?
I said it always raises big red flags for me.
Yeah.
And I've heard many investors say, seriously, no one's trying to steal your idea.
However,
Who your competition is. If your competition is another startup, small company, then they might look at it and say, well, someone's already doing that, so let's find something else. And if your competition is a large corporation, they're most likely going to wait around and see if you get market validation, let you develop the product, and then come and buy you, which is something you might want.
good point. That's a good point.
There are definitely worse things.
Yes, yeah, really.
So what are some of the benefits of embracing your competition as an entrepreneur? What can it do for you and your business?
Well, you have to say the word.
I think Christine already said it once.
Oh, darn it.
What word was
Favorite word.
Co-opetition is the new buzzword for small businesses.
Oh,
We've
co-opetition.
been using it for quite a while now. But co-opetition is where you work with your competition in such a way that the customer doesn't know who they're buying from, whether it's your company or the company you're co-operating or co-opetitioning with, whatever the verb is. So an example that we're seeing here is like a bar and a restaurant getting together. The bar doesn't serve food and the restaurant doesn't serve beer, as an example. So they just can switch and say, look, I'll serve my food at your bar and you serve your beer at my restaurant. And there's some legalities involved in that, but it's possible. And a lot of places do that, but real co-opetition is not when you say, I'm at this bar and I can see I can get a pizza from a pizza place down the street because it's the pizza place's menu. True co-opetition is when the customer sits down at the bar and orders a pizza and thinks it comes from the bar. So the pizza place in this example doesn't even have their name on it or anything. So the idea is you say, man, I'm really in the mood for good pizza and I know this bar serves great pizza. On the other hand, somebody going to the pizza place says, yeah, let's get a beer and I know this great pizza place that has the best beer in the world. So the customer thinks that each establishment has both items. And it's really hard to get businesses beyond that point of saying, oh, I serve great pizza, I want everyone to know it comes from me. But don't you really just want to sell more pizza and increase your revenue?
Wade, that's a really good point. We have Peixoto is a local coffee shop here in Chandler. And they actually roast their own beans and do all that, but then they sell it to other coffee shops in the valley. And so you wouldn't even know that they were necessarily serving Peixoto coffee, but you start making money on that. So.
And do they get a value from the people they're selling it to more than just a financial value?
Pardon?
So they're roasting these beans and selling the coffee to another establishment.
Mm-hmm.
Do they get something from that establishment other than just the price of the beans?
You know what? I'm not sure. I know that there was a one in Tempe that they sold their coffee to, and we actually went to that coffee shop because it's called Peixoto Coffee. So obviously Peixoto is getting the recognition, the name recognition, that it's their coffee being served, but it was a completely different experience than if you went to their shop in Chandler. the coffee was the same, but the coffee shop, the atmosphere and music and the experience itself was a lot different. So I'm assuming, name recognition, but I don't know what their business model is.
So that just shows that there's so many different levels of cooperation with your competition, whether it's the full-blown co-opetition where you can't tell the difference, or you're just sharing what you have that's of value to someone else. And there's endless levels of this.
So, but the example that you gave, I wouldn't see as competition. If you're selling pizza and you're selling beer, that's complementary, not necessarily competition, in my opinion. Am I wrong?
I agree with you entirely. I look at this as being a collaborative effort. It's all right. It's not a microbrewery against a microbrewery, or a deli against a deli, or a pizzeria against a pizzeria. People are collaborating, and that is an amazing thing to be happening. And we get to experience that at its best here in Flagstaff. Going back to direct competition, if somebody is in the same market as me and I demonstrate respect and appreciation of them, that is going to speak to my clients, my customers, about the way I operate my business.
Yeah, we see that.
I think that carries a lot of validity.
I think it does too. I know a number of the restaurant people in town, and they often go to eat at each other's places. You see Jamie over at Jitters, from Satchmo's. You see different people going to different places, talking amongst themselves, and really, they're all in the restaurant business. They may have different specialties and things like that, but they're, technically competitors, but they're friendly. They realize that, not everybody's going to want to go to Satchmo's every day. So let's work together, talk to each other, be respectful. If somebody's looking for a great sandwich one day, then Satchmo's might send them over to Jitters, and vice versa. If somebody's looking for some barbecue, they send them over to the Satchmo's. So.
That's a really good point, because they can also become, think about it. Someone comes to you and asks you for barbecue, say for barbecue. Obviously, if you're running a sushi place, you can't do that. However, what kind of relationship are you creating with that potential customer to say, I can't help you, but I know someone who can. Let me refer you to that. So really understanding, again, your market and your competitors, you create a good positive experience if you can even send your potential customer to a competitor.
And I practiced that consistently from day one with my business. When I would sit down with a potential client and talk to them about what their needs were, if I didn't feel like I was the right one to be helping them through solving their problem,
so that
refer them to someone else. And that paid off more often than you can imagine.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, and the other thing, think about what we do. Like if you're looking at NACIT and the SBDC, and here in Chandler we have the same thing, NACIT, SBDC. There are other incubators, and because we know who's doing what, we're actually able to say, that's a great idea. We can't help you, but here are 3 other people who might be able to help you. So we do that on a regular basis. You guys do too.
Yes. Dan?
Yeah, I tell everybody we're connected to every incubator in the state. If we can't help you and the NACIT team can't help you, we can find somebody who will help you, because the resources are here, and we have access to them. But think about it. If you are a solopreneur and you are selling X, why couldn't you sell your competition at the same time and make a profit on it? You could just double your workforce without any investment.
Good point.
I talked to a lady today that's looking to start a business, basically doing grant writing. And my question to her is, what if instead of you doing the grant writing, you just become the marketplace for grant writers? So if somebody needs a grant written, you help them find the right grant writer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Isn't that working with your competition?
Yes. So, but you mentioned, so let's go back for a second to co-opetition. Is there a place for co-opetition when it's a straight competition? Excuse me. So we had an example of two people in the same industry, in the restaurant industry, but they had totally different services or products, food versus the beer and wine. So that makes sense. It's more, it gels, it complements each other. But is there a place for co-opetition in truly the pizza place with the pizza place?
I think the Peixoto example is a perfect one. I mean, obviously, two coffee shops are going to be competition, but recognizing what their competition delivers, they were able to offer a superior product. Their like locally roasted beans. They were able to give that. So it seems to me that yeah, that can happen. So, for example, there's a pizza place here in the valley where one makes the pizza dough and delivers it to the other, and then they serve the same pizza but to slightly different markets. So I think that is possible.
So co-opetition requires that each of the businesses gets something of value from the other business. So in your example, selling beans into a different coffee shop is kind of one way. It's a one-way street there. So I'm thinking if you have like two microbreweries that are close to each other, and there's direct competition there, but what's the experience for the customer if they combine their beers so that instead of getting a dozen from one microbrewery and a dozen from another, you can walk into either of them and get 24 choices. No, I shouldn't say not many of us, but not everyone sits down and drinks 12 pints at a time. But it's just that idea that I can go back and I have such an amazing selection here, I keep going back. Now, if I'm one of the microbrewers, I want everyone in my place versus the competition. But I'm overall, I'm more likely to get more people if I have 24 beers versus 12, or whatever our numbers are. So I'm competing with the other microbrewery. I absolutely want people drinking from my place, but I'm going to overall get more if I include their beers and they include mine.
I think that's a really good example. And we're running out of time, but I feel like we're not quite done with this topic yet. But I just wanted to say I have always looked at my competition as a way to make me better. Like, I tend to want to innovate more. I tend to want to find a new way to do something. I tend to want to work harder because I feel like the competition's out there looming, ready to pounce, right? Is that valid? Or am I just a little psycho? I mean, we know I'm a little psycho, but is that valid? Do you guys see that?
Absolutely. There's a famous furniture company in LA, and I'm forgetting the name, but when the Chinese started making furniture and selling it for the price that furniture companies in the U.S. could only make it for, almost all of the furniture companies in the U.S. went out of business, except this one company in LA that was able to find a way that was innovative enough to compete price-wise with the Chinese furniture, that they're still in business. But without that intense competition, there was no pressure to innovate to that point. And now they're making more money than before. So it pushes us, competition pushes us to be better, in my opinion.
Well, and look at what can be considered the destruction of small-town America with one will not name the big bucks that has gone into many small towns, and it's a perspective. There are people who said, I can't compete against that. And then there are other people who said, this means that I really have to step it up. And all across small town America, you still see small family-owned businesses who are doing well because they recognized they had to make a change in order to compete against the big bucks.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
You pivot.
go ahead.
Yeah, you pivot, you change your price point, you change your delivery system, make some modifications, and you are back in business.
Very good. Any last words on competition before we wind today's episode up?
Yes. Never believe that you don't have competition.
And
Okay.
that's how we started the show. It probably should be how we end the show. So with that, I am going to say goodbye for today. We will be back next week with another fun topic that I will throw out at our panel. And thanks for joining us. And take care. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.